is Munson with Munson Music, and we're going to talk about how you can play a song called Man I Want to Be by Chris Young. And it starts off with a cool little intro around a C major chord. And we play C major. First finger goes to the B string on the first fret, second finger on the D string second fret, and third finger on the A string third fret. And if you strum the A string to the high E string, that sounds a C major chord, and it sounds really happy. And while you're on C's in general, it can be kind of cool to lift the first finger, make that a C major 7, or you could take the pinky and add it in on the B string third and make that a C major 9. Or another way to play C major 9 is to do first finger on the D string second, second finger on the A string third, third on the B string third, and the pinky on the high E string third. And if you strum the A string to the high E string, that sounds a C major 9 that way. And then from the C on the intro, we go to a D major chord. We play D major. First finger goes to the G on the second fret, second finger on the high E second fret, and third finger on the B string third fret. And if you strum the D string to the high E string, that sounds a D major chord, and it sounds really, really happy. Now, while you're on Ds in general, it can be kind of cool to lift off the second finger and make that a D suspended second. Or you could take the pinky and add it in on the high E third and kind of make a D sus. Or you could kind of mix that up and say some things around D chords. And in the recording, it almost sounds like we would do something I call a D add 4, where you could take the C major shape and slide it over 2 frets for your D. So you could have first finger on the B string third, second finger on the D string fourth, and the third finger on the A string fifth, and kind of use that for your D chord. And on the intro especially, it almost sounds like you do kind of an 8 down count on each of those chords, kind of doing 8 downs and kind of adding a little bit of muting to that. So you go to C, D add 4, D major. Although, a lot of times to support my voice, I like to use something called a strum pattern. And one of my favorite strum patterns for a 4/4 like this is down, down, up, up, down, up. So we took the C and just tried that a lot. You'd have down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up. So we tried that through the intro. You'd have the C, D add 4, like you could also gravitate towards something called a 16th note strum pattern. And what I mean by that is if you're tapping your foot to the beat, right now we're kind of dividing that beat into 2 parts, so they're down, down, up, up, down, up. So 1, 2, 1, 2, and that's called an 8th note. What a 16th note is where you divide that beat into 4 parts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And one of my favorite 16th note strum patterns is long down, 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 up, up, down, down, up, down. And what I mean by that is we take the C and do it down for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what you'd be doing on the first beat. Then on the second beat, you do it down on 1, down on 3, up on 4. So you'd be going 1, 2, 3, 4, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. And then on the third beat, you'd be doing it up on 2, down on 3. So you'd be going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, up, down, 1, up, down, 1, up, down. And on the last beat, you'd be going down, up, down, up, right along with the 1, 2, 3, 4. So down, up, down, 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 together, you got down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, 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 down. So we tried that through the intro. You have the C, other 16th variation that you'll kind of hear, where you could do a down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up 16th note strum pattern. And what I mean by that is you do a down on 1 and an up on 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. On the first beat. Then on the second beat, you do the up on 2, down on 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, up, down, 1, up, down, 1, up, down. And then on the third beat, you do an up on 2, up on 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, up, 1 up, 1 up, up. And then on the last beat, you still keep the down, up, down to the very end. So all together, you have down, up, 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 down. And if you're digging on that feel, it actually can be kind of cool to switch between those 2 16th note patterns through the song. Say what you're feeling with it too. And from that intro, then we'll be going into our verse part. And we start off on the C and the D idea, just like the intro, and we do that 3 times, and then we go to a G major chord. And when you play G major, first finger goes to A on the 2nd fret, second finger on the low E string on the 3rd fret, and third finger on the high E string on the 3rd fret. And if you strum all those together, that sounds a G major chord, and it sounds really happy. Now you may also want to think about putting the 3rd finger on the B string 3rd, pinky on the high E string for that G major, and kind of working it that way. And you could really do that any of those strum patterns that we were talking about. Kind of that 8 down idea could work, or you could try the down, down, up, down, up, or you could gravitate towards the 16th. Then we go into kind of a pre-chorus, which never happens again. But we go to a B minor chord when we play B minor. First finger goes across the entire 2nd fret, second finger on the B string 3rd fret, third finger on the D string 4th, and the pinky on the G string 4th fret. And if you strum all those together, that sounds a B minor chord, and it sounds really sad. Now you could also think about lifting off the pinky and making that a B minor 7, or another way to play B minor 7 is to do first finger on the A string 2nd, second finger on the G string 2nd, and third finger on the high E string 2nd. If you strum the A string to the high E string, that sounds a B minor 7 root position. Or if you're digging on that C major 9 voicing, you could do first finger on the A 2nd, second finger on the G 2nd, third finger on the B string 3rd, and the pinky on the high E 3rd, and kind of use that for your B minor chord. And then from the B minor, we go to a C, and then we go back to B minor. And at the very end, we kind of do like a little halving thing. And if you're doing down, down, up, down, you may want to do just a down, down, up on the C, and then hit a big D at the very end. Or if you're digging on the 16th, you may want to do kind of a down, 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 up, and then kind of a big D. Or if you're kind of using one of those other strum patterns, you may want to do down, up, down, and then the D, which could be kind of cool too. So through that pre-chorus, we got kind of our B minor, C, B minor, from there, then we go into our chorus part. And on our chorus, we start on the C major, and then we go to G, and then we go to D, and then we go back to G, and then we go back to C, but then we go to an E minor chord. We play E minor. First finger goes to A on the 2nd fret, second finger on the D string 2nd fret. And if you strum all those together, that sounds an E minor chord, and it sounds really sad. Now, you may also want to think about adding in the third finger on the B 3rd, pinky on the high E 3rd, kind of working that as an E minor 7 chord. And then from the E minor, it's kind of a halving idea, kind of like that C and D almost. And we go from E minor to an A major. When we play A major, first finger goes to the D on the 2nd fret, second finger on the G string 2nd fret, and third finger on the B string 2nd fret. And if you strum all those together, that sounds an A major chord, and it sounds really happy. Now you may also want to think about lifting off the 2nd finger and making that an A7. Or you can kind of readjust the fingers and put the pinky on the high string 3rd for an A7. Or you might want to think about using an A7 sus, where you do first finger on the D 2nd, second finger on the G 2nd, third finger on the B string 3rd, pinky on the high string 3rd, and kind of use that for your A. And then from the A, we're going to be going to an A minor chord. You could just stay on the sus actually if you're kind of digging on that. But the way you play A minor, first finger goes to B on the 1st fret, second finger on the G string or D string 2nd, third finger on the G string 2nd. And if you strum all those together, that sounds an A minor chord, and it sounds really sad. And on the A minor, you may also want to think about lifting off the 3rd finger and making that an A minor 7, or taking the pinky and adding that in on the high E 3rd, and kind of making an A minor 7 that way. And then we end up with kind of a big D hit, where we do almost kind of a 2 downs on D, and then we pick it up back on kind of our intro idea at the end. So the weird part is where we got that E minor A, and you may want to do just a down, down, up on those chords if you're doing down, down, up, down, up. Or you could do the long down, 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 up on each chord. Or you could have those 16th patterns too. Kind of E minor, down, down, up, A, up, down, down, up, down, up. Or if you're doing on the other one, E minor, down, up, A, up, down, down. So we tried our chorus. We have it C, into our second verse. Now, one other thing I think about adding to the song, though, is bass notes. A lot of times on that first down, up the down, down, up, down, up, you can throw in a bass note for the chord. So on the C, you'd have the A for the bass. On the D, you'd have the D for the bass. Unless you're doing the D add 4, in which case you'd have the A for the bass. And on the G, you'd have low E for the bass. On the B minor, you'd have the A for the bass. And on the E minor, we'd have low E for the bass. And on the A, we'd have the A for the bass. So we tried our verse with kind of adding basses. You'd have the C with an A bass, D with an A bass, or you could go to C, E, C, E, G. Or if you're digging on the 16th patterns, you could add basses to those too. And you could make it a bass, down, down, up, down, down, up, or bass, down, down, up, bass, down, or bass, bass, down, down, up, bass, down, down. Or if you dig it on the other pattern, you could do bass, up, bass, up, down, which would be very cool too. So if we try our next verse, kind of adding basses with 16ths, you'd have the C, our second chorus. And on this part, actually, right after that A minor, it almost sounds like you do an A minor, and then it almost sounds like we go to a G major chord, but in the bass part, you'll kind of hear an A string for the bass on that before we go to the last D. So on that last part, if you're doing bass down, up, down, up, you can have the E minor with kind of a bass, down, A with an A bass, down, A minor with an A bass, down, G/B, or G with an A for the bass, and then hit your D for the very end. So we try with a bass down, up, down, up. We'd have C, G, D, G, C, E minor with low E bass, A with an A bass, A minor with an A bass, G/B with an A bass, D with a D bass. Or if we tried mixing that up with our 16th bass pattern, we'd have the C, our bridge part. And our bridge kind of mixes up a lot of those things. We'd have our C, G with low E bass, D with a D bass, C with an A bass, E minor with low E bass, A with an A bass, C with an A bass, D with a D bass. Or if you're digging on the 16ths, you could have the C, solo part where we kind of the C, G, D, G, and then from there we go into kind of a chorus tag for kind of our outro, where we got our C, E minor, A minor, G/B, D, and we kind of go back into kind of part of that intro. That's the basics of how you can strum through Man, I Want to Be by Chris Young. So good luck.